Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by other prospect experts here at the Hockey Writers, Peter Baracchini, Dayton Reimer. Peter, how's it going? We've got hockey is about a week away. Regular season to start. Of course, the junior leagues have kind of started up already. We've got overseas stuff is happening. Hockey is back. So how's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, regular season puck drop, like you said, is a week away. Already got like a bunch of my notes for like scouting already, so I'm already in full swing of things right now. So never a dull moment.
For sure. And Dayton, how's it going?
Yeah, also pretty good. Getting ready for all the new prospects going to be coming in, and yeah, it's a good time of year.
For sure. Everything's new. Everything's, I guess, all optimism for all teams that when it starts at zero, and we'll see how everyone does. But yeah, there's lots of young players getting into the league. Some surprises in training camp, preseason, some prospects impressing. I mean, of course, some have already got sent down to the AHL, sent back to junior. But even having impressive training camps and preseasons before that. So we're going to talk about that first before we get into some talk about NCAA overseas prospects to watch here. But let's go into the preseason. I mean, the preseason is pretty much, I mean, a lot of teams have maybe a couple games left, one or two, but we're pretty close to the end. So a lot of prospects are already kind of gone from, there are some sticking around that are fighting for roster spots still. So I'll start with you, Dayton. Is there anyone that you've kind of seen that's impressed you over the preseason here that, I mean, it could be a surprise. It could be just ones that have stood out that have already been sent back to junior, but who's impressed you?
I think Matvei Michkov is maybe the easy answer. He's leads the preseason with 6 points. But maybe more so underrated is Samuel Honzek.
Yeah,
is right there with him. Mm-hmm. He's got 3 goals. I think Michkov only's got 1 goal. Yeah, just a really impressive start for the young Calgary Flames prospect. Mm-hmm. Now, I did not see if they sent him back to junior. Oh, it looks like they sent him down to the AHL.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I think the Calgary Flames have, the luxury of being patient, and Honzek seems to be doing very well. He's brings a great goal scoring, a level of goal scoring that maybe the Flames don't really have in anyone else, or at least not that level. And yeah, he's, I think, way ahead of schedule based on what he has shown in the preseason so far.
You know what's funny is Honzek was on my my radar too. He was really impressive in the games, the preseason games against the Canucks. He was probably the most noticeable from what watching that. It was very impressive. I didn't anticipate him being a standout, really. I mean, we know he's a good prospect, one of their top prospects for the Giants. Played really well. I mean, he could still be sent back to the Giants if he doesn't kind of get going in the AHL right away. That's happened. Josh Bloom, that happened to him in Vancouver here. He was in Abbotsford for about a month, and then they sent him back to the OHL. So, I mean, Honzek could happen. That could happen with him too. But, I mean, we'll see how he does in the AHL. He certainly looked good in the games that I saw that could be ready for the AHL this season. So, yeah, I do agree. He's been very impressive, or he was very impressive in the preseason there. Peter, what about you? Is anyone, I guess outside of Michkov, he's going to talk about him. He's been really good. We already knew he was probably going to be good. But yeah, the Philadelphia Flyers probably have their main guy in the lineup now for the future. I think he's probably going to be a Calder candidate too. But anyone else that you kind of stood out to you?
Yeah. Mainly I want to go back to obviously Samuel Honzek. I mean, he's been absolutely lights out. Definitely an underrated name to keep an eye on, especially if he progresses the way that he has so far. Um, I'm curious to see how things are going to work out with some of the names that the San Jose Sharks have sent back. I saw that they sent Quentin Musty back. They sent back Sam Dickinson. And for the longest time, and I think it was only just recently where they still had them on their training camp roster, but then they had to make the necessary cuts and then send them back. But they made him pretty far in terms of training camp preseason to see where everything is going. And obviously, Musty, another seasoning in the OHL, definitely doing good. I think Sam Dickinson definitely wants revenge in OHL to win a Memorial Cup. He already has an OHL championship, but I think going back will definitely help with, still a very talented London Knights team. We're going to see what's going to happen with the full roster because who knows what's going to happen with Easton Cowan at this point. Is Denver Barkey going to make a return as well? I don't remember seeing Barkey being sent back. I could be wrong, but I do want to highlight both Musty and Dickinson for lasting as long as they did so far or this far into the preseason. It really speaks highly to what the skill set that they could bring. Musty, highly creative playmaker, elevated his goal scoring. Definitely is probably going to look to replicate what David Goyette did, where he's going to, surpass last season's point totals. And Sam Dickinson was one of the top defenders in the OHL last year. I think that he's got another level to his game. I think the experience in camp is going to go with him or stay with him for a very long way. And this season, despite being sent back, it was probably going to be one of those, obvious situations or obvious moves, but it's something that he could take with him that he lasted this long in camp because there's a lot of promise for him on the back end. So we know how deep the San Jose Sharks are in terms of their prospect pool, and those are two names that are definitely going to play a big part in the future.
Yeah, I mean, Dickinson, we talked about him all throughout his draft year of how good he was, how mature he was already. And, he's shown that in the preseason already. Of course, sent back to junior. I mean, he wasn't probably going to make the team. But, you know, it's probably not surprising that he looked good because of how good, how mature his game is already. So I wasn't surprised how well he played. But yeah, and the London Knights are going to be a really strong team if they get everyone back. I mean, I think they will be a strong team anyway. They seem to always be. But yeah, they already have Dickinson back. Like you said, a few other guys could be on their way, returning there too. So we'll see. They're probably going to be still a team to watch, and Dickinson for sure this season. Quentin Musty, I was actually there was probably maybe a chance that he could have made the team. But when they added all those veterans and all that, so there's not really any room for prospects to make the Sharks, which is interesting because they're a rebuilding team. But they added so many veteran guys that there wasn't really any room apart from, Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini. But yeah, I think they're both really good anyway. All right, well, moving to prospects to watch, and we'll start with the NCAA because there is, of course, NCAA players aren't usually at training camps because they got to actually pay their own way to go there. So they're in school. So a lot of the guys we don't see, except for development camps when we see them earlier in the summer. But so their seasons are pretty much going to be starting soon too. So Peter, I'll start with you. Any NCAA players that you're going to be particularly watching this season?
Uh, yeah. I mean, if we're going draft eligible, I really think that, James Higgins is the obvious choice.
Mhm.
I mean, we're going to see how well he can replicate Macklin Celebrini's draft year as a freshman. But there are a lot of other draft eligible prospects that, tend to take a big step forward and see what they're made of. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with Jaden Perron at the University of North Dakota because last or in 2023, there seemed to be a divide between, the online scouting community and central scouting because a lot of us liked the skill set that he brings, the pace, the energy, the skill, the playmaking skill set. obviously he needed to grow. He needed to get a little bit stronger. I think that was the main thing for him. But when the Carolina Hurricanes select a player in third, fourth, fifth round, that player is going to have, a very strong, career, whether it's in the NCAA, overseas, you name it. I'm really curious to see how well he's going to progress the season. And then obviously you're also looking at the big names like, Ryan Leonard. You're going to see Jimmy Snuggerud as well. These are some of the big name collegiate players or top prospects that are bound to have, MVP worthy type seasons. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out. But you know what? With the Carolina Hurricanes and how well they've seen NCAA prospects, just like Jackson Blake, we're seeing how well he's tearing it up right now. Also, probably another name we should have mentioned in the underrated, because he's definitely making his mark to try and make the team. Never mind just, make the AHL. He wants to stay in the NHL. So yeah, I'm definitely curious to see the progression for Jayden Perron and see how well he's going to do this season, because he was one of those players that I wrote his draft profile on. I really liked the skill that he brought, and yeah, it just seemed like for a lot of us on like the online scouting community, we were really big fans of him. So I'm curious to see what he's going to do this season.
Hurricanes just seem to know prospects in they just have a lot of them, a lot of guys that are more underrated, but they seem to be, transitioned to the NHL really well. Like, yeah, Jackson Blake's had a really good preseason, and I believe he's still, hasn't been sent to the AHL. He's still with them in camp. I didn't see him get sent down. So, I mean, he's been very good. And yeah, Jayden Perron is going to be a guy to watch in the NCAA. And of course, the Hurricanes just keep drafting these guys, and he's probably going to be successful too. So yeah, definitely a guy to watch.
Should also add that he had 18 points last season as a freshman. So you could tell that, in the second year, there's going to be a little bit more production, a little bit more of a step forward with his development this year.
He'll also probably get more ice time too. I mean, usually that happens as players get more acclimated and the teams start trusting him a bit more in sophomore season. Sometimes freshmen, they seem to get it anyway. They get a lot of ice time. I mean, I guess it depends on the university that they're playing for too. How many good players they have with them. Dayton, what about you? Anyone that you'll be watching in the college circuit there?
Oh, for sure. Just before I mention that, though, I should make a quick correction before someone else does. I think I screwed up Samuel Honzek's stats. I was sorting on the wrong numbers, and it was just it was loading as I was trying to sort it quickly. So I think I got the numbers wrong. He still has a lot of points. Still very impressive. Doesn't take away that he, looks really, really good. Okay. So I think the class of freshmen coming in to the NCAA is like definitely one of maybe the more intriguing ones I've paid attention to. Michael Haig, I think could be one of the more more skilled guys to come in, being a first round pick from the Montreal Canadiens. Excuse me. He was incredible in the USHL. He has, he has maybe some character issues. Maybe it's not fair. He did have some like penalty and suspension issues last season with the Chicago Steel, but he was easily the Chicago Steel's best player. He's an incredible skater. He knows how to score. I think putting him into a college program like the University of Michigan is going to be just fantastic for his development. And once again, the Canadiens are going to have an excellent player with that. One other guy I'm going to be really paying attention to is Teddy Stiga. He was somebody I thought could have been a first-round pick. And I placed him as such in my final ranking last season. He is just like, I thought he was pretty much a complete player. He's, again, really, really good speed. He's got that tenacity that just, he goes into all of the areas that you want him to go into. Really good shot. Size is maybe a little bit on the, smaller side, but just really, really smart. I don't know why he fell as far as he did, and I don't think he even fell that far. But in that case, I think he could really emerge as like a breakout player with Boston College.
Hmm.
I would pay very close attention to that, especially when he's going to be playing beside James Higgins.
Pretty good guy to play with. Yeah, they're definitely going to be. I mean, Hagen's, of course, will be a guy to watch. And I mean, Haig is a guy that I'm, like I already said, how I love that the Canadians drafted him and how good he's going to be for them in the future. And then University of Michigan is probably the best one he's going to go to. We all know how many NHL players that that university has churned out over the years. And not just good NHLers, like elite guys. So I mean that this is someone that he's got a great program to be playing for. So I mean I'm going to be interested to watch how he does there too. But yeah, those guys are definitely going to be ones to watch. I'm going to be watching, of course, Tom Willander for his second season. Had a really good freshman season. You know, it's going to see his progression. I think, in his usually sophomore season they get a bit better and play better. And he's going to be a big part of the Canucks' future. Probably, like I say, on the top pairing with Quinn Hughes at some point. I don't know if he's going to play his full time in the NCAA, but it doesn't sound like the Canucks are going to be pushing him to sign his entry level. Just get him, develop in the NCAA, and that's fine. I don't think they need to rush him at all. So I mean, I'll be, of course, watching him in the Canucks system there. But yeah, I'm really excited to see some of these NCAA. I like the NCAA because it's a higher league, but it's not a lower league. It's more that mid tier where you see if the guy's impressive, they're probably going to be a good NHL player. I mean, it's not always guaranteed, but I really like players that play there because they're not just playing hockey, but they're getting an education too. And I think that's big for. It's not saying that it's bad to go for the WHL and the OHL and all that, but I think these players have a bit more. You see the smarts a bit more once they get to the NHL. It just seems like it with the NCAA players. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see who stands out this season.
One more thing to build off both of your points with Boston University and Dayton with, the class of freshmen. I'm interested to also, I mean, I mentioned Jaden Perra before because he's always intrigued me as a prospect, but in terms of like recently drafted prospects, Cole Eiserman, I mean, is on that team right now. And he was one of the more polarizing players because of, the one trick pony, offensive minded type of player. I want to see for sure if he's able to well round his game out or round his game out, just like we saw at certain points during the U18 tournament where, you saw that, him using his size to his advantage a little bit more. You're seeing that more ability to, play on the defensive side of the puck. I want to see if he's able to take that big step forward because we know how lethal of a shooter that he is. And there was, with all the talk of the possibility of Macklin Celebrini going back to university, if he went there and Cole Eiserman was on his wing, I mean, that just would not be unfair at all. Plus, you have Cole Hudson on the back end. You have Sasha Boumediene, who's a top draft eligible prospect this year. Tom Willander, as you mentioned, Matt. Also his brother, Aiden Celebrini.
Yeah.
So Boston University is definitely going to be a deep team this year. And I think Cole Eiserman is definitely going to be one of those wild card. I mean, I really don't want to say wild card prospects because you don't know what you're getting from him. But in terms of like his overall development and taking that big step or next step further, it's going to be interesting to see because we know how dangerous of a goal scorer that he really is.
And Tom Willander is probably going to take top pairing. He was playing with Lane Hudson towards the end of the season, and now Hudson's not there. So now Willander is probably going to take a lot of minutes as one of the top defenders. So that's going to be interesting to see how he handles all that more responsibility. So, but yeah, Boston University is going to be a wagon. I think there's some really good players playing for them this season.
Camille Bednarik is also on that team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan Green. The list goes on.
It's pretty good. It was talking about University of Michigan. I mean, Boston University is pretty good too. All right, let's jump overseas now and talk about some players over there. And Peter, I'll start with you. Anyone in overseas in any of the leagues over there that you're kind of watching this season?
Yeah, and it really took me by surprise too because of their play at the Hlinka Gretzky, and a lot of them really, really caught my eye as a result of that. So one of them is obviously going to be Milton Gastrine, um, who led the tournament. Actually, I don't think he led the tournament in scoring. I believe it was Klingsell. Yeah, so he had 10 points at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. So he was second behind Victor Klingsell. So I'm switching the reverse order right now. But I really liked his ability to play with that motor, play to his strength. He's got good size, and he uses that size to his advantage. He's a very competitive player. He's very making himself, or he always makes himself involved in every single situation. I really liked what I saw from him during that showcase for Team Sweden because he really stood out, crashed hard to the net. I believe he scored one of those goals that, Jack Ivankova gave up. Unfortunately, was against Sweden, and Gastrin got that goal. Could be mistaken as well. I believe it's one of Klingsor or Gastrin. They were both on that line, but I kind of feel like it was Gastrin. I will double check and circle back on that, and I will give an update later on if I was right. The second one, but still, was Victor Klingzel because I really enjoyed seeing the playmaking. I enjoyed seeing the patience that he had. He was very deceptive, um, very confident, soft hands. He was just drawing opponents in nonstop, and he was opening things up very, very easily. So he was one of those names that, I really took note of, and he's already, excelling well um in the J20 in SNL. He's got 5 points in 7 games right now, 4 goals actually, and he's no more of a playmaker. So um, you know, to have that balance, to have that deceptiveness of whether you're going to pass or whether you're going to shoot is really going to work to his advantage because he's already finding the back of the net right now. We know how great of a playmaker he is. So he's one of the names, and I'm going to round up the Sweden hat trick, and that's Victor Eklund
Mm.
because of, we already know his brother William, and they're both very, very similar in terms of their overall play, where they have that creativity. They like to change the pace of play. They have those strong edges, the speed. They like to play that puck possession style of game and just love to dangle and just make the opposition look foolish every now and then. So interesting to see where he's going to end up on draft day. I mean, it's still way too early. I mean, I had him as inside my top 25, but there's a possibility that he's just going to rise up throughout the season. But the way that he's able to think quickly and at a quick pace is really making me a big fan of his because I mean, Matt, I'm pretty sure you were a big fan of William Eklund in his draft year as
Mhm.
well. We thought very highly of him. We thought that maybe he could have been the first Swede off the board. Um, so I really think that Eklund is going to be one of those play drivers, one of those ones that's going to be involved. Again, people are going to look at the size. It's going to be like, average height, average size, maybe just a little bit underweight, but there he's going to be growing. He's going to be adding more strength over time. He's already got the skill set down packed. So those are the three trio of Swedes that I wanted to highlight early on because I came away impressed with 2 of them at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup and even one of them right now. So they're off to really good starts, and hopefully they can continue that going forward.
Yeah, I think Sweden's making a comeback into that. Like last draft, were I mean, there were some good guys, but not ones were like, yeah, definitely they're going to be like high up in the first round. But I think there's definitely a few this season, this year's draft that we're going to be watching for in the top 20, top 15 this year. So I mean, Sweden wasn't going to go away for a while. I mean, they are always good for the draft. So those are the guys definitely ones to watch. All right, Dayton, over to you. Anyone that you're watching overseas?
Yes, I am going to pick 3 Russians instead of doing well, Peter got to do 3 Swedes. I'll do 3 Russians. So first guy is Nikita Artemonov. I think he was a bit more of an underrated prospect heading into the draft last year.
Mhm.
Um, I don't remember where he went, but Carolina picked him up, as they do.
Yeah.
They ended up taking a lot of my favorite guys last year, and Artemonov, I think, was one of my favorites of that group. So he had like just crazy points during his time, and while playing, like he's not a rookie in the KHL. I believe he was last year. He was the first player to record a 4-point game. Yeah, first under 18. Very creative. He is maybe, needs some work on the skating department, but that doesn't seem to be hurting him this season, where he has, let me just pull that up here, because he is full-time in the KHL, back with Torpedo. 6 goals, 11 points, 12 games. He's started the season incredibly hot, and if he can keep that up, I would imagine that Carolina will be calling very quickly.
Mhm.
They have a few guys in the KHL right now, and he's someone who could definitely make the transition to North America. Second guy, Ilya Nabokov, a goalie. When the draft was happening, I was chatting with Jacob Billington, who's shown up on here a few times, another fellow Senators writer, and both of us were hoping that the Senators would pick Nabokov. Unfortunately, Colorado got to him first, and they're proving that yeah, he's definitely worth that second round pick. He's only one of 2 goalies who's played double-digit games so far in the KHL this season, and he has a .918 save percentage to boot. He's one of the best goalies right now in Russia. And at 21 years old, he is probably getting close to making his way over, depending on what kind of agreements. But it seems like the KHL might be softening in some ways, especially with the arrival of Michkov much earlier than I think anyone really expected. Final guy, maybe a little bit more underrated, Matvei Korotki. He was a guy who showed up in my effort to put together kind of a top 100, and he didn't quite make it, but I really wanted him to be there. He's a really interesting prospect. He had a lot of points in the MHL last season, and he's still in the MHL, but he has, I believe, 16 points and 9 goals in 9 games. So he is just on fire. He was a 7th round pick of the St. Louis Blues, and I would love to see him just tear up that league this season.
Yeah, one guy like Artemonov, I really liked that pick by the Hurricanes too, and I seem to like a lot of their picks. And like I say, their scouting department is just really good. I mean, they seem to be able to pick guys. I mean, mid rounds, later rounds, whatever. Even in the first round, of course. But they're a team that seems to just they're like I say, they're the Dallas Stars of the East. They can still be a playoff team, and still have a good prospect pool, which is a skill because usually you don't get the high picks, and those are mostly known that they're going to be pretty good in the future. And the key is getting these guys in the later rounds, and the Hurricanes seem to be able to do it. And Artemonov's just another one that they've picked that is probably going to be a pretty good NHLer in the future. All right, let's jump to our prospects of the week to finish off the show, and I'll start with you, Dayton, or continue with you, I guess. Who do you have as a prospect of the week early on here?
Well, I'm going to kind of introduce this guy, and we'll be surely talking about him for, well, about 3 years, I believe. Landon DuPont, who was the WHL's prospect of the week, or player of the week, and rookie of the week. He's something of the week. He's my prospect of the week, WHL's rookie of the week. He had 4 assists in the Everett Silvertips' first 3 games, had a +4. Got to make sure I got those numbers right, because apparently I'm not super on my numbers today. 3 assists, 3 assists, a +4 in their first 2 games. Leads all rookies in assists and ties them for the most points. So he is 15 years old. He is a defenseman. And he is going to be incredible. And it would be great if we could see him kind of take off this season.
Mhm.
I will be watching him on the weekend. He's coming to Saskatoon. So I will I'll give you all a report on next time we record. See if he's worth the hype.
Sounds good. Yes, if you don't know, he was granted exceptional status in the WHL a couple months ago. And yeah, he's looks like that was was warranted. So so far here. So yeah, definitely one guy to watch this season. All right, Peter, over to you. Who's your prospect of the week?
Similar to Dayton, I'm going to pick a rookie from the Ontario Hockey League, and he was named Rookie of the Week. To continue that trend already, but this is again, this is a player that probably will not be eligible until 2026, and that is Ethan Belchez from the Windsor Spitfires. You remember him because he was very dominant for the Oakville Rangers. Was taken first overall. 84 points as a result of that, and he looked really solid in the playoffs with 16 points in 8 playoff games, plus 11 more during the OHL Cup. And already he has 8 points in 3 games. So, and let's not overlook the fact that he's 6'4", 231 pounds. So if we're talking about a player with NHL size and strength already, he's already got that at 16. But he is already one of the main point producers in the OHL. Second behind Michael Misa, who was named OHL Player of the Week, rightfully so. But Belchez's breakdown game by game was 2 points as a rookie against Saginaw, 2 assists, and then he had a 6 point game just recently against the Kitchener Rangers, where they just basically dismantled them 12-2. So, but when you're a very promising rookie and you're given that first overall status, you want to be dominant. And because of the frame, because of the goal scoring abilities, because of his underrated playmaking, he definitely has a making to be a very strong power forward. So I'm like Landon DuPont. We're definitely going to talk about him a lot more in the future. And we're definitely going to talk about more about Ethan Belchez in the future, because he's going to be one of those dynamic power forwards that, with that size, with that strength, if you're a defender, you're probably going to have a bad time trying to contain him. So yeah, he is my prospect of the week, just because of what he was able to do early on in his OHL career right now.
6 point night is pretty good
Very.
for anyone who we are. Yeah, that's definitely a good start to his career in the OHL. So definitely got to watch going forward. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stay as a homer here because I just watched him. And this is Ty Mueller. He's probably a guy that a lot of Canucks fans probably don't necessarily know about. He was drafted in 2023. Played the NCAA. He's turning pro this season, going into the Abbotsford Canucks. And he's been, I don't know, in the preseason games I watched, he was really impressive. He had a couple good rushes against the Oilers last night on the recording. That he had good speed and some good size. He was able to protect the puck on one play that got a good shot away. And yeah, really impressed by him. I mean, he had a really pretty good NCAA career, and then we'll see how he does in the AHL. But he could be an interesting guy for the Canucks, a late round pick in 2023 that already has signed his ELC, which of course he signed his ELC because he's in the AHL coming in. So yeah, I'm going to be watching him in Abbotsford to see if he can continue impressing, because I've noticed him throughout training camp, which I mean, of course, when you're watching guys like Lekramaki and Ratu and all these other guys, and he stood out to me apart from those guys. So Ty Mueller is my prospect of the week. All right. Well, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dayton, for coming on, talking prospects again. We'll have, of course, much more to talk about next week as the regular seasons keep going throughout junior, and we'll have more players to talk about. But make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com about prospect coverage throughout all the teams, as all of our writers write about prospects almost every day, it seems, because it's exciting to follow these guys. So make sure checking out all that and the Substack as well. But until our next episode, we'll see you next time.